Welcome to our discussion on enterprise AI strategies. Today, we're diving into the tension between straightforward LLM prompting and the more layered autonomous agent orchestration.
Yeah, it's a fascinating contrast. I mean, on one hand, you've got these high-capacity LLMs that deliver rapid single-step outputs. And then
Right,
the other approach builds complex multi-step orchestration.
exactly. Think of it like this. The LLM approach is like a barista who hears something warm for a rainy day and instantly recommends a chai latte. You're getting the answer with minimal fuss and zero architectural overhead.
Yeah, it's all about simplicity and speed. But then you have the autonomous agents, essentially mini project managers that really break down a goal into multiple steps and interact with tools.
Yep, right. So while the LLM excels in handling direct questions or single turn outputs, an agent does the heavy lifting when tasks require multi step reasoning. For example, imagine the code scenario where a simple bug can be resolved by just generating a snippet with an LLM versus a full pipeline that detects, fixes, tests, and deploys code.
Mm-hmm. It's like comparing microwaving a meal to preparing a multi-course dinner. Sure, the dinner might bring more flavor and detail, but it definitely takes longer and requires more resources.
Absolutely. And one of the key points here is that the enterprise architect isn't trying to build the most elaborate system possible. It's about matching the system's complexity to the task's requirements to maximize ROI.
Yeah, now, what do you think about the potential pitfalls with over-engineering one system? Because honestly, sometimes just a good prompt can save a lot of compute cost and avoid technical debt.
True, true. If you use an agentic system where a simple LLM prompt would do the job, you end up with unnecessary friction. The agent, while powerful, introduces latency and demands more monitoring. A bit like having a barista ask endless questions when you just want that quick coffee fix.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And they even provided a neat checklist: complexity, autonomy, and speed. If a task doesn't require multi-step planning or autonomous decision-making, why add all that extra weight?
Right on. For high value tasks like content generation or translating code snippets, a straightforward LLM hit the mark. It's all about intent understanding.
But then, say we look at an IT incident response scenario. The autonomous agent could detect the error, run a fix, notify teams, and generate a report without much human intervention. That's a game changer when every minute counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. In such cases, the extra layers of planning, tool integration, and independent decision making in agents justify their overhead despite the higher cost.
So we seem to be balancing between high speed/simplicity and the need for thorough, stage-by-stage orchestration. Would you say the coffee shop analogy sums it up pretty well?
It does, perfectly. On one end, the LLM acts like that efficient barista who gets you your favorite drink without delay. On the other, the agent is like the barista who asks, do you want full fat, skimmed, extra hot, or maybe with a dash of almond milk? Making sure every detail is just right.
Yeah, right. But don't you think there's a risk that sometimes the agent might overcomplicate a task that doesn't warrant it?
Sure, that's a valid point. If the operational logic demands only a single pass, then embedding low latency LLM use is way more efficient. Throwing in an agent in such cases actually degrades the user experience, almost like turning a quick call into a drawn out interview.
Hmm, that's a critical observation. It reminds me of how in any engineering project, the simplest solution that meets the requirements is usually the best.
Exactly. Our guiding principle remains simple is powerful. Use the robust, streamlined LLM approach for low complexity tasks and reserve the agent's elaborate orchestration for tasks that truly demand multiple conditional steps.
Mhm. And when it comes to resource allocation, it's all about ensuring that the extra compute and maintenance costs of the agent are justified by the task's requirements.
Absolutely. For instance, if you're dealing with a static dataset summarization, the LLM is your best friend. But if you have to run a live pool of financial data and generate a dynamic report, then the agent comes into its own, despite the higher token costs and latency.
It almost becomes a question of scale. For quick routine requests, you lean on the LLM, but for comprehensive workflows involving live data and sequential steps, you justify the agent.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the decision of whether to build an agent also boils down to avoiding unnecessary complexity that could lead to technical debt. If the job can be done faster and with less overhead by a simple prompt, that's usually the smarter move.
Yeah, so in practice, would that mean enterprises should conduct a sort of pre-assessment checklist to see if the task requires autonomous orchestration?
Right on. It's all about asking, does this task need to be broken down into multiple steps? Does it require the system to independently decide which steps to take? And how critical is speed here? If any of these parameters don't align with the need for an agent, then a direct LLM approach should be preferred.
That checklist seems pretty effective. It's almost like a decision matrix for designing AI architecture.
Yeah, it's a kind of resource allocation framework. This way, you're not over-investing in orchestration when a well-crafted prompt could suffice, keeping operational expenses and technical debt low.
Exactly. It's fascinating how these architectural decisions can make or break the efficiency of enterprise systems. I love how these two modalities are not competing per se, but rather complementing each other when applied appropriately.
Exactly. It's all about matching the right tool to the task. Over-engineering when unnecessary is like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. It certainly works, but there's a cost to it.
And sometimes the nuance is in knowing just where that balance lies. Do you think the current market is ready to make that distinction in their deployment strategies?
I think so. The trends show a rising awareness. Enterprises are now questioning, is the extra complexity truly yielding better outcomes? If not, they're sticking with the streamlined LLM approach.
Totally. It's a cautious yet smart evolution. And as these methods mature, we'll likely see even more refined decision matrices, continuous assessments, and perhaps even hybrid solutions that can switch modes depending on the task.
Exactly. In the end, it's about delivering the highest ROI while minimizing friction and cost. Keep it simple unless the task demands a deeper multi step process. That's the core message here.
Yes, indeed. Well, this has been an incredibly enlightening exploration of direct LLM prompting versus autonomous agent orchestration. There's so much depth to how these models can be used effectively in enterprise settings.
Absolutely. And it's neat to see how both strategies have their place in the grand scheme of enterprise AI. It all comes down to aligning the approach with the specific needs of the task at hand.
Right. Thanks for the chat. It really helps to break down these concepts in such a clear, engaging way.
Anytime. And remember, whether it's a simple LLM prompt or a fully orchestrated agent, the goal is always to keep it efficient and powerful.